Sudargas and its surroundings are the last foot of the Lithuanian land on the left bank of the river Nemunas. The area on the northern edge is about 10 kilometers adjoined to the river Nemunas. It borders the former East Prussia, now the Kaliningrad region of the Russian Federation. This border is both the state border of Lithuania and the border of the European Union. The border is always the area that needs to be more sensitive to both the political and everyday challenges. However, living on this border, it is not difficult to realize that people of this region have a strong backbone. The Lithuanian language sounds here, strong national customs and ethics heritage are preserved. Only two places in Lithuania, Kernavė and Sudargas, have five surviving mounds, witnesses to their historical past. Kernavė was the center of the formation of our state, and Sudargas once was one of the strongest fortresses in Samogitia. Sudargas mounds are located from the east to the west in about 1 kilometer area along the flow of the river Nemunas. History goes back a long way, but the exploration of the area is still very young. From the available data, it is possible to imagine the general development of Sudarg mounds and their history. The oldest of them was the former Vorpilis. The name Vorpilis itself comes from the old word vor, which means old. It was not only the oldest but also the most destroyed mound. It was actually the most reconstructed during the research, so we can know it best from the archaeological research. People lived there in the first centuries, Anno Domini, almost 2000 years ago. It is still interesting to know that in that time iron metal was smelted in Vorpil. A number of iron residues have been found there. Facts proving this business have been found. The 2000 was the beginning of the period of state forming and the beginning of the period of struggles against the Crusaders. The main castle in Grynaičiai is Žydkapiai. The name of Žydkapiai, what means the Jewish cemetery, comes from the fact that a cemetery of the Jewish community was established here a little later. However, the embankments and fortifications are perfectly visible. Despite the fact that the Jewish tombs destroyed a large part of the cultural layer, the remains of old times have survived. Remains of defensive fortification were also found during research both in 1970 and later. There was the beginning of the settlement on the site of a former mound at the end of first thousand, the beginning of second thousand. Characteristics pottery for that period was found there. Unfortunately, the mounds of Sudargas were damaged a little later, both during the washing of the river Nemunas and because of the human activity. Some of mounds have such secrets that it's hard for us to unravel them. Pilaitė Mound is probably the most unique in Lithuania, as it is located below the banks of the river Nemunas, as if in a semi-valley on the slopes, where the embankment is well visible. It has been proved that people lived there, but we can hardly imagine how people could defend themselves in such a mound. Their enemies could have simply been stoned from above because they are below. This is the mystery of Sudargas mounds, despite research. The Sudargas Mount complex, where previously wooden castles stood, was abandoned more than half a thousand years ago. For centuries nature and man have not been merciful to them. The mounds you can see in 2009 acquired the view from the fall of trees and bushes, the slopes of the mounds, the sides of the mounds, the views from the top of the mounds to the surrounding landscape, to the Nemunas Valley. The mounds are now easily accessible to every visitor. During the same maintenance works are installed convenient stairs to each mound, paths, information stands. This has made the mound so attractive that the flow of visitors does not subside all year around. Sudargas is the place where present generations explore the lands of its memory and, with all the knowledge of heritage, discover it endeavors to validate the present in order to preserve it for future generations. Since June 2007, the annual celebration of the size of Sudargas Mounds has been loudly commemorating the tragedy of the collapse of Sudargas Castle, which was attacked by the Crusaders. Interest in this event has spread not only in Lithuania but in some other countries too. The map of tourists visiting Sudarga is extremely wide. It crosses even several continents. The Society of Sudargas Region, together with the Department of Cultural Heritage in 2007, commemorated the 619th anniversary of the castle collapse. It focused on the initiative to glorify Sudargas through ethnocultural, educational, cognitive events. With this event, we have achieved that Sudargas, from an almost unknown place, has recently become prominent on the tourist map of Lithuania, and its popularity is increasingly crossing the borders of our state and even the continents. For example, about 5,000 spectators enjoyed the 2017 event in Sudargas. Over 120 performers from several regions of Lithuania and guests from Japan performed the program of the event. The celebration of the site of Sudargas Mounds attracts a lot of tourists every year. Much work has been done to achieve such results.
Krašto, ne taip iš rašto, gėdų senųjų žodelius. Kalnai ant kalnų, o ant tų kalnų, kalnai ir maži kalneliai. Tenai Lietuva per amžius buvo, kai sako mūsų senoliai, kai sako mūsų senoliai.
Joninės or Rasos, St. John's Day, is one of the most beautiful Lithuanian festivals. Every summer, the history and traditions of the country are remembered on the mounts of Sudargas. St. John's Day is celebrated on mounts in accordance with the ancient rites and traditions. Drumming, dancing, playing, greeting Jonas and Jonina, burning bonfires, we Lithuanians are free and strong as long as our memory is alive.
O gilios ir didingos istorinės atminties žadinimo šventė. Joninės ant piliakalnio švenčiamos laikantis senųjų apeigų ir tradicijų, kupoliaujama, šokama, dainuojama, žaidžiama, sveikiname Jonai ir Janinos, įspūdingai dega laužai, Nemunas plukdo svajonių ir vilčių pilnus vainikus. Mes, lietuviai, esame laisvi ir stiprūs tiek, kiek gyva mūsų atmintis. Sudargiečiai brangina ir saugo savojo krašto istorinį ir gamtinį perlą, tikėdami, kad ant gerai sumūrytų istorinių žinių pamatų bus pastatyta tvari mūsų visų ateitis.
Now, not only the mentioned celebration, but also other patriotic events in Sudargas are taking on a different phase. The interest in them is expanding every time. The revival of historical memory of the area began only in the 20th century. In 1984, the administrative and public organizations of Vilnius and Šakiai districts, as well as the community of Sudargas Region, decided to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the recovery of the Lithuanian press. There was still a time of stagnation, but that did not prevent from speaking about the era of bookbinding as a vital phenomenon for the nation's survival. This is especially important for Sudargas as the center of the Suduva-Suvalkija region book carriers organization, headed by Prest Martynas Sederavičius, operated here. There are many accents that remember that dramatic period in the history of Lithuania. Prest book carrier Martynas Sederavičius is buried in Sudargas in the same grave with his comrade Kušeliauskas. Sudargas School, as well as the main street of the town, is named after Martynas Sederavičius. The other street has the name of Knygnešių Street. In 2004, a monument to all the guardians of the Lithuanian writing and word was built in the center of the town to commemorate the centenary of the recovery of the Lithuanian press. If Motiejus Valančius, Jonas Basanavičius, Vincas Kudirka are not forgotten Lithuanian today, then Martynas Sederavičius, who lived in the same difficult period of the press ban for Lithuania, deserved no less respect and remembrance. Martynas Sederavičius was born on November 9, 1829, in Lukiškių parish. Wanting to become a priest from an early age, he entered the Warsaw Seminary in 1855. 3 years later, in 1858, Bishop Valančius ordained Martynas Sederavičius to priests in Varniai. An ordinary plowman from Lithuania village became a priest. From the moment on, Martynas Sederavičius devoted his entire life to the service of God and the people of his land. After becoming the pastor of Sudargas, he began active printing and distribution of books. He seemed to turn the town of Sudargas into a window to Lithuania, the center of banned Lithuanian books. Priest Martynas Sederavičius followed the footsteps of Bishop Valančius, who was the first to fight against the Russification policy of the Lithuanian nation. Martynas Sederavičius' greatest goal was to spread the faith in the hearts of Lithuanians and, as he put it, to build the Church of God in the throes of a man. The Lithuanian press distribution organization created by Martynas Sederevičius operated covering the whole area of Užnemune and a large part of Somogyčia, as well as Kaunas and Vilnius provinces. He involved many people in bookmaking activities, became a book carrier himself, encouraged people to teach their children in Lithuanian, taught them himself, found editors, and sent more talented youth to learn the craft. Martynas Sederevičius lay his eternal rest next to his greatest collaborator and friend Serafinas Kušeliauskas in the cemetery of Sudargas in 1907. The name of Martynas Sederevičius is inscribed among 100 of the most famous Lithuanian book carriers. More book carriers who followed the footsteps Martynas Sederevičius also rest in Sudargas cemetery.
Jis staiga betarpiškai transformuojasi kunigu. Visai apimtas egzaltacijos jaučiasi stovys prie altoriaus mišių rūbai. Priešais minios klūpančių ir karštai besimeldžiančių žmonių. Visi ištroškę Dievo malonės. Jis plačiai žegnoja ir nuo širdies laimina. Paskui prakalba artimų paguodos ir pamokymo žodžiu. Gražus, prasmingas jo pamokslas, jaučia, kad žodžiai tarytum rytmečio rasa žolynus giliai paveikė, atgaivino žmonių širdis, palaimintais veidais, lengvais žingsniais, skirstosi žmonės namo. Bematant atsiklaupė jis pats, degančias akis aštriai įrėmė į dangų, lyg norėtų peržvelgti anapus regėjimo ribos ir patį Dievą išvysti. Tvirtai sunerė ranką, malda karšta, iš pat sielos gelmių.
Du istoriški įvykiai užklupo Sederevičio Lite. Baudžiavos panaikinamas ir vadinamas lenkmetis. Abudu giliai ir jautriai teko pergyventi. Rusų caras Aleksandras II stengiasi neatsilikti nuo pažangiųjų vakarų Europos monarchų. Kad baudžiava jau atgyvenusi, visiems buvo aišku. Napoleonas vos įžengęs į Lietuvą jo buvo panaikinęs. Tik jam suklupus rusų carai palaiką ponus vėl grąžino. Buvo sudaryta komisija naujai žemės reformai parengti. Komisija tų pačių žemvaldžių stabdoma vis dėlsi. Caras pritrūko kantrybės ir išleido nuogą pliką manifestą. Dar didesnis susierzinimas pasidarė tarp luomų. Baudžiauninkai tuo manifestu buvo paskelbti laisvi, bet turėjo dar po senoviai atlikti įsipareigojimus ponams. Baudžiauninkai pasijuto nei laisvi, nei pakarti.
Tęskime bylos svarstymą. Kunige Martynai, perskaitykite šį laišką.
Aukštai godotinas Serafimai. Patekau į vyrišką būdį. Visą laikų, lietuviškai ir mielą. Kai pirmąkart priėjau prie didžiųjų bažnyčios durų ir viršum jų storo ąžuolo lentoj išvydau didžiules dailiai išpjaustytas literas. Namai mano, namai maldos, širdis apsaugo. Dūšiai pasidarė lengva ir graudu. Nudraskė nelabėjai sodžių pavadinimus, kelių rodyklės po šito parašo nedrįso liesti.
June brings the music festival Beatrice Summer to the people of Šakiai region and their guests. This is a cycle of professional music events that is reminiscent of Lithuanian nocturnal singer Beatrice Grincevičiūtė. The festival began in 2011 to mark the singer's 100th birthday and continues to this day. Many people ask why it's called Beatrice Summer, why not autumn or winter? This is because Beatrice's childhood was spent in Ilguva Manor, on the high bank of the river Nemunas, and the most vivid memories of the childhood are often related to summer. It's a bit of a romantic name. The space of the old Sudargas church, which was destroyed during the war, and the surviving fragments of its ruins have their own unique aura, so the festival audience is always plentiful here. The abundance of recreational infrastructure provides opportunities to organize various other events in the area: weddings, family and colleague celebrations, picnics, or other outdoor recreation. The new entertainment and relaxation facility Baskojų takas, which appeared in 2019, immediately became an object of attractions for adults and children. In Lithuania, there is a movement for naming individual places or villages as thematic objects, reflecting the spiritual status of the people of that country. Sudargas is a land of 5 historical mounds and a book carrying, say Sudargas people. The particularly prominent historical past of this region is a real inspiration for present generation and works.